The work breakdown structure is one of the truly fundamental tools of project management. But how do you create one? If you're managing a predictive or a hybrid project of any significant scale, then there's a good chance you'll need a work breakdown structure. So in this video, we're going to look at how you create one. And we'll do it using the globally more common approach of breaking down the project into products or deliverables. And from that, identifying the activities. Now, it's worth mentioning that in the UK, where I come from, I was originally taught that a work breakdown structure broke down the work, the activities, the tasks of the project. And from that, you can determine what the products need to be and link them to the tasks. But American project managers and the Project Management Institute teach the alternative approach. Neither is better nor worse than the other, in my opinion. Both have their advantages and their adherents. But because it is the more common approach, and some would argue maybe the more rigorous approach on technical projects, we're going to break down the project into its deliverables to create a work breakdown structure and then use that to identify the tasks that need to be carried out for future planning and scheduling. So because our work breakdown structure is going to break the project into deliverables, let's start by understanding what they are. Deliverables are products or capabilities or results. For example, a thing, a process, or an event are deliverables. You could argue that a deliverable is anything tangible that you can experience. So, to create a work breakdown structure, all we need is a hierarchical decomposition of all of the deliverables. And because it's all of the deliverables, it means that if it's not on the work breakdown structure, it won't get done in your project. So it's absolutely crucial that we do it in a systematic way so we don't miss anything. Now, you'll find a lot of variance on the process that I'm going to give you, and I don't claim that my approach is any more nor less correct than any others. But what I do want to focus on is being crystal clear about the levels within a work breakdown structure. So at the top of our work breakdown structure, we have level 0. This is the product, deliverable, or project that we are going to create through the project. It is the totality of the entire deliverable set and therefore the project itself. Level 1 is what I am going to call the key line, and this is not a commonly used term. The key line is our organizing principle for the work breakdown structure. It sets up the categories by which we're going to decompose our deliverables. Now, sometimes the key line is nothing more complex than a few deliverables, the biggest deliverables of all. In other circumstances, it may be the stages or phases of the project. It may be work streams that are thematic in nature, like technology, people, and processes. Or it could even be a geographic set of divisions. However, once you set up the principle against which you're going to decompose the entire project, that gives you level 1, your key line, and therefore sets out the titles for the major work streams for your project. At level 2, we have the major deliverables that sit within each element of the key line. Not all of these deliverables need to be an end deliverable. An end deliverable is something you want. It is there because that is what the project has been created to build. End deliverables are often defined by the goal and the objectives of the project. The alternative is interim deliverables, and you may see some at level 2, but they are more likely to appear at level 3. But while we're at level 2, the key here is to use expertise, the experts on your project team, to identify the major end deliverables and the major interim deliverables. So at level 3, we will see components of the major deliverables, and we will see a large number of interim deliverables. Interim deliverables are things we need to create in the project in order to help us get to the end deliverables. Typically, They include things like prototypes and tests. They include project management artifacts like plans and stakeholder lists. They include things like test scripts and maybe even components that we don't need, but that will find their way into the end deliverables. So to create level 3, we need to brainstorm the sub-deliverables and the interim deliverables for each of the items at level 2. Remember, because if it's not on the work breakdown structure, it won't get done. Be sure to include project management process deliverables, the artifact of project management. And one way to do that, of course, and my preference, is to set up a project management heading at the key line level. That way, you can decompose your approach to project management into a number of major and then sub-deliverables at levels 2 and 3. Remember, everything in this workstream will, of course, be an interim deliverable by definition, because it's not something we want as an end product. It is something we need to create along the way. If you do create this project level workstream at the key line, typical names would be project management or project integration. Level 4 and maybe levels below this further decompose the sub-deliverables and the interim deliverables into smaller and smaller deliverables to the point where each deliverable is a unique and fully constrained thing in itself. Make sure that these are structured into logical hierarchies and, as far as possible, sequenced in a logical order. And of course, it may not look tidy, but it is okay to go to different depths, different numbers of levels at different parts of the work breakdown structure, because your work breakdown structure should be determined by the work that needs to be done, not by some platonic ideal of a perfect, neat work breakdown structure. The next thing to do is to document your work breakdown structure. We start by creating a work breakdown structure index. We number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on across the key line. Then, starting with the first element, we look at the sub-deliverables on line 2, and we number them 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, and so on. Every item on your work breakdown structure will have an index number in that format. And that format should look very familiar to you, because it is very easy to create a work breakdown structure using a simple word processing package like Word or Pages. You have a number of ways that you can present this. You can present it as a hierarchical list, or as a tree diagram, which is commonly presented as, particularly in a training context, but for a large project is rarely practical. Or you can create a work breakdown structure dictionary, a WBS dictionary, which lists every product with its reference number, but now you can add additional information. You can add descriptions, standards, specifications, resources, costs, durations, and anything else that is relevant to you to create your work breakdown structure dictionary. The final step is to present your work breakdown structure to your project sponsor, to your client, to your boss, to your steering group, and indeed to your stakeholders. Get their feedback on it and refine it before producing your final version. Your completed work breakdown structure is now a full and formal statement of the complete scope of your project. Before we turn our deliverable-based work breakdown structure into an activity tool that we can use for planning and scheduling, let's look at some good practices in creating your work breakdown structure. First, make sure the labels of each item in your work breakdown structure provide a clear and unambiguous description of what that deliverable is. Secondly, apply the MEIS principle. Is your work breakdown structure mutually exclusive and collectively exhaustive? What do we mean by mutually exclusive and collectively exhaustive? By mutually exclusive, we mean there are no overlaps, that the same deliverable doesn't appear twice or more times in different parts of the work breakdown structure. And by collectively exhaustive, we mean that any deliverable at a level can be completely specified by all the sub-deliverables below it. That is to say, that the entire work breakdown structure does indeed represent the complete project and everything you need, both your end deliverables, the components of the end deliverables, and your interim deliverables. Now, it's worth noting that on many modern projects where they are moving from a purely predictive to a more hybrid style of project management, it isn't always going to be appropriate to try to complete the work breakdown structure at the start of the project. The project may evolve and you may need to add elements or indeed delete elements from your work breakdown structure as you go through the project, discover new requirements, learn more about the project you're doing. So whilst I grew up in a predictive environment where we would create a full work breakdown structure before moving out of the planning phase into delivery, that isn't necessarily going to be your approach in every project. Now you've got your deliverable-based work breakdown structure, how do you understand the tasks, the activities it takes to create your project? The first step is to create work packages, to identify deliverables or groups of deliverables that need to be created together, and set up work packages that collectively develop those deliverables. Typically, you will have one work package create one deliverable, but that won't always be the case. And also, typically you'll allocate the task of creating this work package decomposition to your workstream leaders who understand the tasks and the deliverables within their workstream better than you do. Once they've created the work packages, they will decompose those into the individual activities that need to be done. These can be then arranged into logical sequences and you can estimate time and resources against them and indeed budget for them. And that's the third step. Planning is about taking the sequence of activities that you identified, taking the estimates of how much work it takes to deliver them and the duration of those activities and putting them into a schedule and building a budget. So from a work breakdown structure, you can determine the dependencies, estimate durations, allocate resources into those tasks, and therefore estimate costs. So now I hope you can see why I describe the work breakdown structure as a fundamental project management tool. It's the tool that opens up the way and connects with so many other project management artifacts. The work breakdown structure is a scoping and scope management tool. It's a planning tool. It's a resource allocation and resource management tool. It's also the basis for detailed risk identification, and it's therefore a tool for governance. And because of that, it becomes a communication tool and a tool to help you with reporting on project status and progress. It can also, by attaching specifications to the work breakdown structure dictionary, be a quality management tool. And finally, very often it is the basis for integrating all of the other project management tools. Please do give a thumbs up if you like this video. There's loads more great project management content to come, so please do subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of it. And I'll look forward to seeing you in the next video.